Well, we're back. Wow, these intro videos just keep getting crazier and crazier. Hey, everyone. Hope you've been having fun at this STEMathon today, First Canada Girls and Allies 2020. It's been just so inspiring watching all this action happening. Mahak, have you been into any of the groups to see what everyone's working on?
Yes, I have. And honestly, I am so impressed. The ideas that everyone is coming up with. I mean, we're definitely it's gonna be a tough competition for sure. And these teams are incredible. They have such creative ideas, especially including EDI, which I know we are going to talk about later with story time with Erika Rossi, but they're just awesome. I'm so excited.
Yeah, it's like, we've kind of into like the first 4 hours, first 6 hours. I guess we're quarter of the way in if you think about it, which is like, whoa, you're crazy. And so everyone's in that idea generation phase. And I've seen a lot of teams that have started to move into the solution generation phase. So that's going to be exciting as they kind of pick what they're going to work on. There's a lot of problems out there. And I just want to remind all the teams, like, you don't have to solve everything. You don't have to fix the entire world, but just pick something laser focused and take it out right there, and it's going to be really good. But we decided we want to take a little bit of a break, and we know at these Girls in First weekends, some of the best things have been to hear the stories of your fellow peers or people who've gone through this program before. And we decided, like, why not bring back a veteran of all of this and someone who's been inspirational to both students and mentors alike. So Mahak, why don't you tell us who we have on the show tonight?
So today we have the one and only Erika Rossi. She is an undergraduate student and mechanical engineering student at the University of Windsor and is starting her second year this fall. Erika is a proud first alum as she was a member of FRC Team 5885 for 4 years and has been involved in numerous ways within the FIRST organization. For 2 years, she was a member and student chair on the First Canada Girls in STEM Student Advisory Council and is currently the chair of the First Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Youth Advisory Council. Erika is passionate about encouraging and empowering youth in STEM and has volunteered her time as an FLL and FRC mentor, as well as being a part of the University of Windsor's Women in Engineering Club, where she's the VP of Events and Outreach. Her skills range from leadership and public speaking to critical analysis and problem solving, and she is always looking for new ways to create a more inclusive world. Welcome, Erika.
Hey,
thank
Erika.
You for having me. Hi.
So, Erika, we had you on First Canada Live. Wow, it's months ago. That's how long this has all been going on. And it was such a great discussion. And when we were kind of thinking of who could come on this show to talk to the girls and allies today, we just thought we could continue the discussion we had. So thank you for being here. First of all, I want to ask you, how's it going with the STEMathon so far?
Oh, I'm having an amazing time mentoring my team. It's amazing and so inspiring to see all the different ideas that they are bringing forward and seeing them lead their own teams in their own ways. Each member of my team brings such an important part, and I love seeing all of them work together, and I cannot wait for everyone to see their final solution tomorrow. So it's been an amazing afternoon so far.
That's amazing. So Erika, I know you talked a lot about your full first journey on First Canada Live, but can you briefly just tell the audience about your first career?
For sure. So I started first back when I was in grade 8. And so when I was in grade 8, I was on my school's FLL team, and that was such an amazing experience. But at the time, I still didn't really know what robotics was. So I remember after my FLL season that ended, my mom and I went to the Windsor Essex first robotics competition at the University of Windsor. And I remember sitting in the stands and watching all these high school students with their robots, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. I mentioned this before, but the one memory that sticks out in my mind is sitting with Team Dave in the stands and them explaining all of that, explaining to my mom and I everything that's going on, and looking down and seeing 1114's robot. And I still have a note page on my phone with 1114 from St. Catharines. Look them up later, because I thought what the high school students were doing was so cool. And in that moment, I thought, if they can do this, why can't I? What's holding me back from becoming involved with robotics? So from that point on, I was looking at the different high schools I wanted to go to in my area. And it just so happens that the one school that I had my sights set on was actually starting an FRC team in my grade 9 year. So in grade 9, I joined FRC team 5885, the Villanova Wildcats, and I am a proud alum of that team. Being on that team has taught me so many different things about myself. And through that, I've been able to be in involved with First Canada through the Girls in STEM Student Advisory Committee, which I was on for 2 years, that has now become the amazing Youth Council. It's so inspiring to see how much that's evolved over the past 3 years. And from there, I got involved with the ED&I committee with First. And now I'm done my first journey as a student and I'm moving on as a mentor. So I've been proudly mentoring FLL teams for the past 4 years. And the one team that I was on has now evolved into 3 teams. So during my first journey, I've not only seen growth in myself, but growth in the programs that have helped shape me into who I am today. And it's been the most rewarding experience.
That is quite the story, Erika. I love how, we always wonder about these events that we put on. It's like, the general public getting anything out of this when we advertise them or whatever, but your story shows that, someone who's coming into this without can be inspired and can capture that energy just from being there. And it adds almost like an extra degree of responsibility for all of us on our teams that we, it's like, we're not just there competing, we're there showing this program off and little things you do. And so it's kind of cool that a robot that I was involved in helped inspire that way. So that's just a great feeling. Erika, you've also attended the Girls in First weekends in the past, and you've been one of the organizers and a leader of all that. So why have these Girls in First events been so important to you, and how have they impacted your life?
So I've thought a lot about this question because there's so many different aspects of these Girls in First events that are so important. And I remember when I first attended when I was in grade 11, I was going through a couple of adversities on my team that year, and walking into this event, not really knowing anybody other than the one teammate I brought with me, I was so welcomed into this community. It's a community I hadn't really had before within my own team. And through that event, I was able to develop, even though it was only 2 days, I was able to develop so many different strategies that I can use to deal with these adversities that I'm facing. And it gave me a community that I could rely on. And it allowed me to find confidence within myself because I was able to relate to others that were going through the same challenges as I am. So being in that welcoming community from the moment I stepped through that door was so happy to continue to be a part of through the STEMathon today.
That's amazing. And you've told stories like you've made some lifelong friendships out of those events as well.
Yes, I have. Shout out to Kim Cooper for introducing me to one of my best friends, Izzy, during the second Girls in First weekend. Izzy had come by herself and didn't really know anybody on the team. And so Kim said, Erika, why don't you go over and talk to her? We'll put you guys in the same room so you can get to know each other. And from knowing each other for 48 hours over that weekend, we have stayed in contact until today. And this community, like I said, is just so welcoming and has given me so many support systems within the First community and with such as Mahak too, with the First Council and everything. It's been an invaluable experience and an invaluable event.
Yeah, and I think that's the whole purpose of all of these. And it's very easy for us. We could just sit here and tell all the amazing positive stories about the first experience and all of that. But we know that we learn best when we learn from moments of adversity. And so have there been moments within your first career where you've experienced adversity and you've struggled with sexism?
Yeah, so when I was looking back at my experience as a first student, there's 2 moments that really stick out to me. So the first one I want to mention is when I was in grade 11, I was really pushing myself to become more involved with my team and to not be scared to take on more leadership roles. So during that year, we had many senior students graduate, and so there was a vacancy in the electrical lead position. And I thought this would be a great way for me to not only develop my leadership skills and help my team, but also develop my technical skills. So I was really putting myself out there, but putting my name forward to become the lead of this sub team. And I faced a lot of backlash from a lot of boys on my team who I thought would have supported me through this. I remember the night that during the meeting that I put my name forward, all the boys kind of got together and they told me, no, you shouldn't be doing this. More qualified. Why are you even putting your name forward when it should obviously go to him? The mentors are just going to pick you because you're a girl. And I remember leaving the meeting that night, crying in my car to my mom saying, I can't believe that this just happened. Maybe I shouldn't be going forward with this. Why was I thinking of going forward with this? And that was a really hard thing to overcome, because people who I thought should have been supporting me, I weren't. And it was a really big challenge that I had to overcome. And thankfully, I had so many amazing people around me through my family and my friends who supported me with this decision and who helped build me up after the tearing down experiences that I had with members of my team. And I was able to go on to be the electrical lead that year. And I was able to kind of push all of those negative thoughts that they had put into my mind. And I was able to, become the leader and develop into the leader that I knew I could be and I deserved to be.
Yeah, that's it's good to hear these stories, because I think a lot of people have experienced similar sorts of things, and it's important to share these things because we so often internalize the adversities that we have, and when we do that, it doesn't give us the opportunity to grow, but it doesn't give the others the opportunity to grow from what they've seen. And so, Mahak, I'd love to know if you've experienced anything similar to Erika. Does that ring a bell to you, or?
No, I think I definitely have. Like something, I think something similar that I've experienced is like trying to get on to be on the drive team. And I know there was a lot of conversation about whether like I was good enough to be a driver, or like what position they should give me, or if like another person should get the position instead. Especially because so for like the past few years, my team's only had male drivers, and the only female role on the drive team was human player, which is sort of upsetting. But I think I did overcome that eventually, and I was able to get operator, and I did have some experience with human player before. But I just want to say, I know I heard Erika speak about the story that she just mentioned at 2018, the Girls in First weekend, and honestly, that has inspired me so much. And I just want to echo what Karthik said about like sharing your stories, because after that, I was able to sort of step up and try to be on the drive team of my team. And I know I have reached out to Erika in the past, and I really value her. I just want to say like the way that she like overcomes certain situations. So thank you so much for that. You are truly inspiring. But yeah.
Yeah, and I think also there's something about, like Erika, you're a leader in our community, and there's so many of the people who are a part of the STEMathon, whether it be the mentors or the students, or either leaders or future leaders. And a lot of people think leadership is about not showing weakness or not admitting that we've had adversity before, but that's just not the case. And we should be able to talk about our struggles, whether it's been overcoming sexism, overcoming racism, overcoming mental illness, overcoming whatever. It's okay to explain to people that, yeah, I went through a rough part, or this was really hard for me, or I wasn't good enough, or I made mistakes. I did something sexist, or I didn't understand, and I hurt someone. It's okay to talk about those things, because that's how we all learn. And so that's why we do these story times. It's not just to talk about like all our fun moments. It's about, yeah, like let's be real with each other. Let's be open. So this is good stuff.
And to speak on leadership, one other thing I wanted to quickly mention is I talked about this a bit at last year's Girls in First weekend, but one other adversity that I faced, and once I was already established in a leadership position, was in grade 12. So about 2 years ago now, a year and a half ago now, I was team captain of my team, and I was standing in our workspace and during one of the build nights during build season, and I was saying goodbye to one of the team members that was walking out the door. I said, "Oh, bye, I hope you have a safe drive home. Thanks for coming tonight." And one of the grade 11 boys who was staying next to me during this time looks at me and he's like, "You're so caring." He said, "That's what you are. You're the team captain. Your job is just to care for people and make sure everything's going nicely and looking nicely. But so and so, this other male who's more heavily involved with the build aspect of our team, he's the real team captain. He's the real team leader. You're here just to make everyone feel good and to make everything move along slowly and smoothly." And I looked at him, and this time, instead of feeling really inferior and letting these thoughts go into my mind, and like I did when I was in grade 11, I turned to him and I confronted it, and I said, "I don't know what you're talking about. Why would you say that? I am just as qualified as a leader. I don't have the same technical knowledge." And this student looks at me and he says, "Oh, you know what I mean. You know what I mean." And I said, "No, I don't know what you mean. And you should not be saying that about anybody, because a leader doesn't follow or fill in certain check boxes. Leaders are ones that can be compassionate. Leaders are ones that can take charge when they need to. You can be kind and you can be a leader. You can be a little bit bossy and tell people what they have to do and still be a leader regardless of who you are. And that's something I really wanted to touch on, because in the past, people have said that within leaders, they feel like they have to, like I said, fill in little check boxes. And as a girl in STEM who's faced adversity through leadership, it's really important to hear these stories and know that you are valued as a leader and you are able to be a leader, because leaders are not a one size fit all, and everybody has the capacity to be the leader that they're meant to be. And that's what these weekends have helped to show me. That's what these events and these communities have helped show me and help develop me into the leader I am today, to have the confidence to face these adversities and tell them that they're wrong, that I am so much more than what they are telling me.
That is fabulous advice right there.
Definitely. So Erika, now you're in university. Can you speak a bit more about like what that experience is like and what we as students who are currently in high school can expect?
Of course. So university has been one of the most amazing experiences. I was very, very nervous entering in September, but the one thing I kept telling myself, and I've been telling myself this for the past couple of years now, is don't be afraid to put yourself out there. It is scary going into a new environment and it's scary meeting new people. But just like first, the more you put into it, the more you're going to get out of it. So the more you put yourself out into university and the more that you try to get involved and the more that you start talking to people and the more that you start learning about different things and learning different things about yourself, the more you're going to get rewarded and the more you're going to grow and become the person that you're meant to be. And so even though university is scary and there's so many assignments and time management is huge, it's nothing that you can't overcome, and it's nothing that others can't help you overcome.
I think that's really important. So I know like a lot of high school students are very nervous about this transition into university, especially because there's so much freedom. And it's nothing like we've experienced before. So that kind of makes me feel a little bit better. But I still have 1 year. Do you want to speak a bit more on about like what's been the hardest part of transitioning into university?
Of course. I think the hardest part, like I mentioned, was really putting myself out there and talking to new people. Going into university, I only knew, I believe, 3 other boys in my program. So I didn't know any girls going into my program, engineering. And that in itself is very, very intimidating, entering an environment that you might not be comfortable in and having to adjust to different biases or stereotypes that might be put on you as a woman in STEM. And so I think the hardest part was really just putting my head down and moving forward, knowing who I am, knowing who is supporting me, and relying on their opinions of me, and relying on their support, everything that I've done. And so I think the hardest part is really just making sure that you're staying true to yourself and not losing sight of who you are.
Yeah, I think in university, like one of the hardest parts of university is also one of the biggest opportunities in university. So when you're in high school, you're there with the same people for 4 years. And for some people, you've been with the same people from elementary school, and your identity has been defined. And it may not have been defined by you. It's kind of like you have this reputation. It's like everyone in high school, it's like the whole Breakfast Club thing. Everyone fits into the box. You're the jock, you're the popular one, you're the rocker or whatever. And you might not necessarily be who you are. And then you get to university, you're on a campus where you know no one, or maybe just a handful of people. And it's like, whoa, I can be anyone who I want to be. But then you might say, I don't actually know who I am. And this freedom, because we've relied on the image of who we are, and it's intimidating. I remember getting to the University of Waterloo, and it was just like I had a well-defined identity in high school, and I was like, it's like, oh wait, that's not there anymore. And like my friend groups aren't there. And it's like it was like this weird existential crisis. But then at the same point, it was just like this huge relief. It's like I don't have to be who everyone wants me to be. I can be who I am, and I can figure this stuff out. And so that's what I really just encourage everyone at university is to take the time to, the boundaries are gone. You can do what you want to do and explore and try and figure out what you want to do. Like everyone who's watching this right now is part of FIRST, and FIRST has been a big part of their identity and a big part of their life. But when you get to university, you can discover more and maybe try some things that you didn't do before. Like you don't have to like continue being crazily involved in FIRST, because one thing I can promise you, FIRST isn't going anywhere. A global pandemic didn't take FIRST down. Nothing's going to. FIRST will be there when you graduate or later on or right away. So you don't have to be that super involved, and you can find other ways to get involved. You can be a mentor for a STEMathon, and there's all sorts of things that can happen, but it's just really important to seize that opportunity, even if that opportunity is a little bit challenging. Erika, earlier today, we had this great panel with the Youth Council about equity, diversity, and inclusion. And you've recently been promoted. First of all, congratulations on becoming the chair of the first equity, diversity. It came up on my LinkedIn, and I was just so proud. I was just like, first of all, whoever's on that committee, that is a great decision because you picked the best possible person for it. And it's like, yes, like Erika's gonna do big things, and she is right there. So please tell, I don't think a lot of people really know about this committee. So tell us what this committee, how you got involved, what it's about, and what your role is as the chair.
Of course. So for those you may not know, FIRST actually has an Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Youth Advisory Committee comprised of students from the US and Canada with a variety of backgrounds and interests. And our goal is really to elevate the voices of the youth in FIRST and to make sure that everything that FIRST is putting out abides by ED&I and makes everything accessible so that every single student feels that they belong in FIRST and have a place in FIRST. And so I became involved with this committee about 2 years ago now, during my time on the Girls in STEM Youth Advisory Committee. So at the time when I was a part of the Girls in FIRST committee, this youth advisory committee was kind of a thought bubble and kind of an idea someone at FIRST headquarters had. And my name ended up being put forward to be a part of this committee to see what we could do with students. And through that, we were actually able to create the ED&I training modules, which you can now find on the FIRST Inspires website. So I highly encourage everyone to go and check those out because they're very valuable information. And then this year, during my second term on the committee, I was just promoted to chair, which has been I'm very, very grateful for it. And it's been a very humbling experience. And my role as the chair of this committee is to help oversee all of the different projects and initiatives that the youth committee is going to be putting out, while being the kind of bridge between the rest of the members of the committee and our senior advisors who are FIRST staff. And so that's kind of how I fit in with everything.
That's it's an amazing role, and it's a very important one. We talked about it this morning. There's the world's a crazy place right now, and I actually shouldn't even say that because that's unfair, because the world's been a crazy place for a long time. There's a lot of systemic problems. And I'm just wondering, and I know, Erika, this wasn't one of the on the list of questions, so I'm throwing a curveball at you, but looking at what's happening in the world and the incidents that we've seen of anti-Black racism, is there anything that you and your committee see that are opportunities where FIRST can help make a difference? And what can FIRST do to try and address, we can't solve all the problems, but is there anything that you think that initiatives that we should be trying?
So we've actually discussed this with our committee during one of our recent meetings. And the big overarching topic that came up is just education, educating students and mentors alike on how to, for example, address microaggressions and recognize those towards different minorities, and figuring out how to make these really big topics that might seem a little crazy at times very understandable for students, so students can analyze their actions and analyze their words and learn to become allies and learn to change their behaviors, and so that they are able to be respectful to everybody they encounter regardless of who they are. And so I think a big push for our committee is going to be focusing on education and making sure that different resources are available for students so they themselves can learn and start to change their behaviors.
Yeah, it's really important, because there's so many things that have to be addressed when you're dealing with a systemic problem like this, but education is always like at the forefront of this. And we do so much right in FIRST, and there's so much learning that goes on, but there's always more. We can broaden that exposure. So that's really, really cool. And then I think that kind of ties into my next question about the STEMathon theme. I want to know kind of what you think of this theme, and also how this theme can be tied directly to ED&I.
Of course. So this morning when I heard the theme, I was so excited, because I believe it's a theme that so many students, regardless of if they're in high school, if they're in university, they can connect to it, because right now education education is changing. It's changing very quickly. And it's important that with these changes, the students' needs are kept in mind. And I believe that's where the STEMathon ideas and all these different pitches and projects that these students are working on is so relevant and important. Because as these ideas come forward, it's important that the changes are implemented so that every single student feels heard by the education system. So that's where the ED&I comes in. Because accessibility in education, for example, is very important because there's a lot of little things that people may not notice. I remember during the Twitch chat this morning, someone put in the comments that in grade school, they couldn't read the different slideshows properly because they were colorblind. And that is something that I have personally never even considered as a challenge for students in the education system. And it's something that 100% should be considered so that every single student has the exact same learning opportunities as the one sitting in the desk next to them, even though their needs and their ways of learning may completely vary. So it's important that our education system is constantly evolving. And it's something I talked to my group about this morning, saying that solutions we implement now may not be relevant or may not be solutions in 10, 20 years from now. And so it's important that we continue to have these conversations.
Yeah, the accessibility piece is such an interesting one because I remember back when I was the drive coach for 11-14, one of our operators, in the rules that year, that was the first year they were going to do penalty flags. The referee was going to drop penalty flags. And he comes to me, he's like, Karthik, I'm not going to be able to tell the difference between the two colors of flags. There's just no way that's going to be a thing. I was like, oh, I had no idea. And then years later, like you talk to some robot drivers, they're like, I can't tell the difference between red and blue bumpers. And I was like, whoa, like you're right. We don't think about it, but like having that awareness and having more people who know what's going on with all of this. So yeah, it's a lot to think about, but it's where you
So I think Karthik is frozen right now. So we'll just like let him get back on. But Erika, I definitely think that you touched on some very important points. And I was having a conversation with Namira earlier while we were talking to the rest of the groups that are currently working in the STEMathon. And I think you're able to get so many perspectives on different situations that students have been in that I know I haven't been in some of them. And I think this whole having the conversation is so important because you're able to understand a lot more and help sort of break those barriers that are present for some students versus another. So what is your take on that?
I completely agree. It's important that students' needs are constantly kept in mind when developing new curriculum and new ways of teaching. I know that, for example, I am very hands-on when I'm learning. I do not do very well when I just listen to someone teach. I have to start doing the problems myself. And that may be completely different than my friend who's sitting next to me, who may have a hard time learning hands-on and need someone to directly explain it to them. And so, as you said, by continually having these conversations, whether it be about education or about ED&I or anything in the world, it's really important to continue to evolve our perspectives, evolve our solutions, so that every single need of any person in any community, regardless of what they're involved in, they're able to participate to 100% of their ability, not feeling any different than the person next to them.
Thank you so much for saying that. And I know, I think it's been amazing to have you on this story time. I watched your first story time on First Canada Live, and I'm inspired by you every single time you come on. And thank you so much for all the work that you're doing, whether it be in the first EDI Council or even with the Girls in First STEM Advisory Council. And I'm looking forward to seeing you at competitions. And you're an amazing mentor, so your group is very lucky to have you. Is there anything else that you want to say, Erika?
I just want to thank you, Mahak, for helping create such an amazing weekend. I know the Girls in First weekend's happening under uncertain circumstances, and it looks a little different this year, but thank you for providing this opportunity for so many girls and allies to connect and to learn from one another, and allowing mentors such as myself to learn from these students as well. So I just want to thank you and all of the First Canada team doing such an amazing job this weekend. And I believe we just have to do some judging reminders. Mac, want to take away with that?
Yeah, for sure. So a reminder to everyone that on Slack, we will be posting the judging schedule right after this, as well as a place to submit your infographics. So make sure you get your infographics by 7:30 a.m. tomorrow morning, as well as judging starts at 8:30 and we'll finish around at 11:10 a.m. So look at your judging schedule, be on the Zoom call. There will be a Zoom link where you'll be divided up into your group with your judges. And it looks like we have Karthik back.
Hey, welcome. Sorry about that. Internet died, had to hotspot in. I'm bummed. I've missed part of Erika's segment. It's like the highlight of the weekend. That's not fair, but I'm sure you two had a great discussion there. And so, Mahak, just keep on giving these closing reminders, and I don't want to interrupt.
I think that was about it. So have a look on Slack. All the reminders are posted there, and we hope you are connecting with your mentors. All the youth council members are available throughout the night. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. And get ready to present your pitches, because I think we're a quarter of the way through for the STEMathon. So thank you everyone for an amazing day, and we'll see you all on Slack.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great one. Thanks, Erika.
Thank you.